Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and welcome to another keynote at the Global Education Conference. It has been back-to-back sessions today. Bobbi will have people coming in after they finish the sessions that just finished at the top of this last hour. We're sure glad to have you here. Now, if Lucy's here, I wanted to give Lucy a chance to introduce this section because it's part of the innovation strand she's been working on. Lucy, would you like to do that? So I'll turn the mic over to you, Lucy. She's saying hang on. Bobbi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm getting my headphones on, or else you're going to hear my family eating dinner in the room next to me. So let me pull these on. Okay. Good evening, everyone, or good evening here in the United States. I'm in Norfolk, Illinois, and it's 6 o'clock, where Bobbi is in D.C., I guess. It's 7 o'clock, and we welcome you, Bobbi, for our last keynote of this part of the world's day. Bobbi is giving a keynote representing a new strand to the Global Education Conference. We have decided to add a new element to our offerings by looking at global educational technology initiatives, and this is brought to us in part by getideas.org, which is Cisco's corporate social responsibility project that's focused on educational leadership, and EdSurge, which provides a very timely and useful newsletter every week to entrepreneurs and to educators on the latest and greatest in ed tech. And Bobbi has been an advisor to EdSurge, and Betsy Corcoran, who runs EdSurge, is a good friend of mine too. And so this is kind of a fun way to add a new element to our offerings. Each of the companies that are going to be featured this week, I think we saw a couple of them today. There are about 30 of them, and I'll post the link in the chat in a minute. Each of them either has a project going on abroad or has some sort of aspect of their technology that leads to global collaboration and communication between classrooms. And I hope that these companies this week will take the time to ask you questions, ask us educators questions, because it's not often that you get the opportunity for companies and educators to really talk. I'm really happy to have Bobbi here. Bobbi is a former executive director of Curricula, and if you're not familiar with Curricula, it's an open source curriculum website that's great. And she's now with the University of Pennsylvania School of Education and advises companies all the time on innovation and the latest and greatest in educational technology. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Bobbi. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bobbi, and we look forward to your talk.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking around where people are, and I want to thank the people that are sponsoring the conference. So if everybody will kind of go on the map right now and show us where you're at. I'm in Washington, D.C. Love to know where the rest of you are, and I see we have a class that's joined us. So thanks for everybody being on the site and participating. I'll give everybody a minute to do that so we can kind of see where you all are. It looks like we have mostly people from the United States tonight. It's pretty late in some other parts of the world, and it's pretty early in Asia. So, well, we do have somebody from Central America or Mexico. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go forward. And if you come on later, we'll go back and see where people have joined. Thanks. So I'm going to talk about innovation today. And innovation has become a cult. Everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And I had an interesting exchange of information today from somebody who didn't believe that entrepreneurship and innovation could help change schools. So we do have multiple points of view here. I want to talk about it a little bit and get your feelings about this. So most of us think innovation happens in rooms that are a disarray, lots of disorganization, And that's why probably many educators don't feel comfortable in an innovative setting. All of you on the phone are probably not that kind of person. So, however, innovation did happen in companies like Apple. And what did they innovate on, and what kind of innovation? Well, you have to remember, first of all, that the iPad wasn't the first MP3 player. You have to remember that the iPhone wasn't the first touchscreen phone. You have to remember that Dyson didn't create the first bagless vacuum cleaner. And Windows wasn't the first GUI. Successful products are really the result of just innovation by itself. People don't want to innovate. They like to do things the way they're used to. And more important, educators don't like to innovate. They'll be happy to innovate if you give them the guidelines on which to innovate. So basically, it's very hard to innovate in our old knowledge space. It's a space where we have been in a linear knowledge space. We start on page 1 of a book, and we get to page 360, and then we are at the end. We will have learned it. We take a test, and if we pass the test, we say, you've learned that knowledge. But learners today are in a new knowledge space. They're in a random knowledge space, one in which people are doing multiple things, are looking for information randomly, and they're looking for information just in time. If any of you have watched your students, and probably some of you that have been a native in the digital space rather than an immigrant into it, are already comfortable in the random knowledge space. Now, a random knowledge space, if you watch your students, they will be talking on their chat, they will be exploring the internet, they will be solving problems together, and they will be looking for information to solve the problem as they need it, not before. So very rarely do they read a chapter and do a set of problems anymore. They start the problem, and then they go to find the information that they don't have already either learned or have intuitively gained that knowledge. So we're really talking about an innovative random knowledge space. So how do we define innovation? Innovation is generally understood as the successful introduction of a new thing or method. Innovation is the embodiment, combination, or synthesis of knowledge in original, relevant, valued new products, processes, or services. And more important, innovation requires creativity. Bobbi thinks about I have a question coming over here, and we've seen a lot of tension come out about technology and attention. I'm wondering what I think about it. Well, the truth of the matter is it goes very well. It's a good question because it fits very nicely with the model of a random knowledge space and a linear knowledge space. Most of the people that have said that kids can't multitask or they're doing too many things on the internet are learning and studying in a linear knowledge space. We haven't had any evidence to date that we have less kids going on to college, that they don't do as well, that we still aren't creating and inventing, and we aren't still finding Nobel Prize winners that are learning in this new knowledge space. So I think we need to find a group of researchers that are already exploring the random knowledge space. At the very worst case, at least it's as good as the linear knowledge space. So there are several types of innovation, and there are several areas in which you can innovate. This particular chart I'm sharing with you is from a group called the Doblin Group. It's very, very similar to the IDEO group at Stanford. Many of you know about that. And they've come up with a plan or a set of attributes to look at innovative companies. And you can innovate in 4 areas. You can innovate in a financial area by changing the business model or the way you network your customers or your community. You can change the innovation in a process that you do differently. You can change the products you offer to be innovative, and you can change the delivery method. Many of you are aware of what's going on with the flipped classroom. That's probably a new innovation that falls under the delivery method. You probably are thinking about some of the ways we're looking at new products and the innovations that have come around on apps. Many of you as teachers innovate, as somebody's just shared with me, as a process of the way you do things in the classroom. So we want to look at innovation from all categories, and you don't need to do all of them to be considered an innovator or having an innovative model. This is a very interesting chart. If you go to the Dublin website, they will have studies of companies that they believe are innovative. If you look, it'll explain why the ones they picked are considered innovative. This was an interesting, when I first came across this slide, I happened to be at a meeting on innovation, and I was, of course, multitasking, and I looked up on the screen, and there was a slide of curricula, and they were explaining why curricula was an innovative company and an innovative idea. And after the session, I went up to the presenter, and I said, so why are you thinking that curricula is innovative? How did you find us? You never called, you never did an interview. And they said that they have a staff of people that do research around companies that they think are innovative and identify and put them into the categories, and that curricula met 6 of the categories, and therefore it was classified as an innovative company. So what are innovators, and how do we make them into entrepreneurs? This research was done by a gentleman from the Wharton School of Business. His name is Martin Ehrig, and he's created a simulation to identify the kind of entrepreneurs that will be successful and what they do as entrepreneurs. First of all, most of us think that innovators have to be the innovator. Well, they're not. The innovators are actually often imitators. I believe that there's probably about 6 ideas in the world, and the innovation comes from the best people that are imitating or tweaking that idea to make it better. In the development stage, we often have the inventor, or the person that's come up with the new idea, the entrepreneur, the new teacher that's come up with something that's making a difference in their classroom. We often also copy things and improve upon them when we're in development. It's much easier to start with something, the best example of that being MySpace and the people that sued Facebook. So Facebook was not the first idea to do it. They just did it better. They copied somebody else's idea, they were an imitator, and they innovated to the point that their solution was a better solution than the one before it. So I'm just trying to read the notes on the side. It's a very interesting conversation going on, and I do believe that that we need to think about how we get innovation into the school. Rushton's talked about innovation in teachers and what happens when a teacher tries to innovate. We often know that the best innovations that go on in the school are when a teacher closes the door, goes into her classroom, throws out the textbook, and does something different. The problem is you don't get to see that because that teacher is often afraid that if it comes out that she's not teaching from the textbook directly, that they'll get slapped on their hands. And so they often innovate, their students do better, and the principal or the district office doesn't realize that the reason that their students are doing better is because they were willing to take the risk to innovate. So there are 5 rules for driving innovation. The first is we want to give our people exposure to lots of different ways of doing things. That's why we're having this wonderful conference. That's why you all are sharing ideas. You need to look at everything, and not everything will stick, but it might make you have an idea that will light your fire to do something that's innovative. We need to provide new methods of education for innovators so that that will create momentum. We need to give teachers better professional development that, 1, gives them permission to innovate, and 2, rewards them for innovation. The third one's one I really feel very strongly about, and the U.S. has done this much better than the international market. but it's okay to fail. You may have to fail several times to win. However, that's somewhat in conflict to what goes on in schools, because the traditional model says, well, we can't try things out on students because what if they fail, and what if we don't do a good job? And well, the answer is, one, because we're in an internet speed, we're able to make changes and iterate very quickly, so nobody's going to suffer for very long. And the truth of the matter is, most of what we're doing in the classroom has been failing for a long time, and nobody's been willing to say, let's do it differently. And the fourth is, there's an art to creative combination. There's the ability to combine multiple ideas, and you need to do that, and you need to take the risk to be able to say, I'm willing to take this from this piece that's good, and from this book, and from this video. And we do that as teachers quite often, but we don't let it come into the classroom as an innovation. We actually tell teachers that they have to do exactly what's given to them in the standard plans that come, because that's the way they're going to be able to teach the Common Core and get to this assessment. There are many ways to get there, and creative combination can happen. And the last one is, if you don't build it, someone else will. This is a really important one. And it's important to say, we're running, as I told a researcher today, we're living in an internet speed world, but the classroom is running in an old traditional slow speed. And so if we don't change the things and put them in the classroom, these kids will go out and find somebody that's doing it, and they'll really not be turned on in the classroom. So how do we create innovators out of students and teachers? And by the way, notice I said students and teachers. I noticed somebody just referred to maker. Absolutely, the maker stuff is exactly what I'm talking about here. And so how do we make these students and teachers innovators? First, we want to have classes and seminars and communities where people can talk about, learn about innovation and entrepreneurship. This strand of this conference is doing that very well. Secondly, we want to have alternative ways of learning. We want to learn online. We want to experience with the MOOCs. And I was talking to somebody today about how to bring MOOCs into the K through 12 education. We want to do a lot of experiential education, and we want to do a lot of collaborative things. We want to be able to find places to incubate good ideas. Last week I visited an amazing school in Philadelphia, the Science Learning Academy, and Chris and I were talking about all these incubators that have been set up around the country. Wouldn't it be really nice to have the incubator actually reside in the school so that students could work with the entrepreneurs from the very beginning, and entrepreneurs could test their ideas with students and teachers right away? The interesting thing about this model is that the two things I find that entrepreneurs fail at the most is, one, they don't do their homework. They don't know what else is out there. They haven't done a very good competitive analysis, and as I said, they're reinventing the wheel rather than trying to improve upon what's out there. And the second thing that they don't do very well is that they don't do any work in looking at the evidence and the research around the product they're doing. And they build this phenomenal app, and then they go see the research that tells them that this app would never work no matter what they do. So we need to incubate good ideas, and we need to have creative ways of putting that incubator in with the teachers and the students. The fourth thing is we need to have seed funds and innovation grants that help teachers. Things like the Next Generation Learning, the I3 grants. There's a program for teacher fellows in Tennessee. There's a lot of programs coming up that will help teachers to innovate in their classroom. We need to share good ideas in forums like this, and we need to test them with students and other teachers and administrators. That is so important to what's going on, and we need to test them with the assumption that not everything we test is going to work. Just looking at some of your comments, yes, EdSurge did run a thing at the Maker Faire. It was great. I like the kind of comments that are being done about comments being made about research that's going on and following the research. We need to share that and do more. I hope to be able to build a database at the University of Pennsylvania, where I'm located, to help teachers, entrepreneurs, and researchers link and find out what each other's doing. So what are the phases of innovation, and how can this community participate? The first phase is when we seed and incubate new ideas. I'd love to get some suggestions on having incubators residing in schools. How do we find money to seed them? Right now, we are having lots of opportunities for lots of entrepreneurs to get seed money, but there doesn't seem to be any connection to the schools on this. Entrepreneurs are often teachers, particularly from Teach for America, that have good ideas, and we have technologists that have made money on early stage companies, and now they would like to do something that's going to do well as well as do good. Unfortunately, these two groups don't speak to each other very well, so we're heading towards a perfect storm, so we need to come up with exciting ways to incubate and seed new companies. We need to support companies in the launch phase. We need to help them find beta sites. We need to help them do evaluation and research on their products. And then finally, we need to have a community of investors that will help support the scale of these innovations. And by the way, this is applicable to whether we're talking about a for-profit or a non-profit. So we are very excited about the opportunity to support this kind of innovation and through multiple phases of it. We've been very lucky in the election. We've elected several senators and have a new group of people coming into Congress that are supportive of innovation and entrepreneurs. Angus King, who had been the governor of Maine, as you may know, was put in the one-to-one computing project, and now he's the new senator from Maine. So lots of opportunity, lots of exciting things are going on. So what's already going on in some of these areas? So, as I told you, we've got a lot of innovation going on in ed tech and blended learning. If you look at the chart that I've put up, you'll see that there's lots of people seeding it, like Imagine K-12, Socratic Labs, the New Schools Venture Fund, 4.0 Schools, Silicon Schools Fund. So there are opportunities for seed money, and it's usually in the range of $25K to $250K. At the launch stage, we have a Series A venture capital group. We have several venture groups that have looked at this, and they're very much interested in what's going on in here. And they're looking at putting in investments of $250K to $1 million. And finally, we're talking about the scale of these and working with large investments at $1 million plus per investment. So we're I've been asked if I could describe any of the emerging threads in research that you'd like to see better connected to entrepreneurs. I do see some threads that are happening around collaboration, and the companies like ePals and Edmodo and how they're impacting learners and how collaboration is changing problem-based learning. Quite a bit of research going on there. The second part, I see a lot of research is going on into literacy and how to improve literacy. I've seen some research about the school, the Bridge International School in Africa, changing it. There's a program in India called Heads Above, and it's a literacy program also. So lots of research around those two projects. I see a lot of research going on into the impact of the apps and the flipped classroom just beginning to occur at universities and at the university research money going into that. What's my prediction about the growth of charter and for-profit schools? I think that we will have both for-profit and non-profit charters. I think you're going to see growth. I think there's a real opportunity for universities to help support programs that would be programs and master's degrees that would help people run and start charter schools. The University of Penn Graduate School of Education has been thinking about that. I also think that there is an opportunity to do research around what's happening in the investment in education entrepreneurship. At the University of Pennsylvania, we've just hired a Wharton professor to teach education entrepreneurship at Graduate School of Education, and he will be doing research on that topic. We'll begin to see a whole wealth of that kind of research coming out. And thanks for the class that's joining. We've enjoyed having you on. So I'm going to open it up to questions about why, and the answer to why is why not. So I see a lot of conversation going on. I'm assuming that Lucy, I should just begin to answer what I see in the chat. Is there any voice chat, or is there just the text chat?
I'm going to leave it up to you guys. If somebody wants to talk directly to Bobbi and take the mic, why don't you raise your hand using the little hand icon underneath your name, and we'll give you mic privileges and you can talk to Bobbi. I think it's a little bit easier if one person at a time is talking. I tend to turn off my mic when I'm not talking, just to make it easier on everyone. So you can either put your questions in the chat, or you can take the mic. Just let us know. Betsy, you also have moderator privileges if you want to jump in here too. I have to leave in about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so because it's my daughter's getting ready for high school meeting tonight. So any questions for Bobbi?
Well, I see some coming up. I'll just comment on some of the other questions that I've seen coming up. I see somebody's prototyping a product-based learning and bring your own device, as well as games-based learning. So there's a lot of research in that area, particularly around games-based learning. New Schools Foundation has funded a project to aggregate games and research out of the up in Boston. So I think you're going to see more research along that. I also think you're going to see more changes in what's going on in incubators and how they're run and how we collaborate more and what we do with the companies that don't make it. Rather than just seeing them go away, we will be evaluating their technology and seeing if there's partners that they can blend with.
Bobbi, is there anything we can say about what hasn't worked? I mean, part of understanding innovation and understanding how things do work is to also be able to eliminate some things, to say, gosh, these were directions we didn't want to go in. As you look back, just even over the last 5 years, are there any things that we can point to where you can say, gosh, you know, that was a path that we don't need to go down any further?
Well, obviously we're going to get rid of Groupons. I do think in education we have some of those cases also. I think we're one of the examples, and somebody told me the other day that MOOCs were going to go the way of Second Life, and in 3 years people were going to say, so what's Second Life? As they do now, they'll say, so what's a MOOC? So I think we're going to see, and one of the things that I also, and doesn't mean it was bad technology, Second Life. I do think it created a virtual environment where people learn to collaborate. I just think that there was the new technologies and there's better ways to do it. While some people still use Second Life, it's just not a easy technology, and it's kind of morphed into other things. I do also think some of the other technologies that you're going to see is that there was a lot of game apps that were drill and practice, and because people played it on a cell phone or played it on an iPad, people got excited about it, but there was no way to track or evaluate the benefit of the game. So standalone apps in the school will probably have less traction than those that are connected to a management system in a way to, or feed it into a management system. So you're going to see more platforms like Route 1, like the stuff being done by 10 Marks and things like that.
Maureen, Devlin, you're raising a number of really interesting points. Do you want to grab the mic here and put a couple of your questions to Bobbi?
I see you.
You don't have a mic tonight.
That's right, Maureen.
Then let me. One of the points that Maureen made a little earlier was, I believe it had. She asked, do you have any advice, Bobbi, for elementary school teachers who want to innovate, but who are experiencing a lot of pushback from either their school, from their supervisors, from the community? How do you counsel them?
I think it goes back to my very first comment on the fact that this is the cult of innovation. I think we need to eliminate the word innovation and when you go into the classroom as a teacher and think about what you are doing that's best for the student, because innovation is really those things that will make a difference for each student. So I think an elementary school teacher that realizes that is really innovating, and she needs to present it that way to her teachers, to her principals, to the parents, and she needs to explain that she's going to try new ways of working with students as they learn better. Yes, it's innovation, but right now there are some innovation and entrepreneurship often bring up negative connotations. We announced our business plan competition from the University of Pennsylvania, and I don't know if any of you saw Diane Ravitch's blog today, but she thought it was the worst thing in the world that a research institution would have a business plan because we were going to profitize all of education. And she was pretty blunt that we shouldn't be doing it. She sent a letter to the dean and got a lot of attention. So I think it's not about innovation, it is about improving teaching and learning. And you're doing it as elementary school teachers. You just need to have the ability to not be fearful that when you try something new that you think is innovative, that you are pretty strong, that you want to try it. It might fail, but it doesn't mean that if the child does something for a week that he's going to be harmed for life. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
Let's see, Lucy's asking, how's learning theory really brought into the equation?
I think that goes back to your research question, Betsy. I think there's a lot of people that are looking at learning theory in terms of the way kids learn. A lot of research being done on multitasking, on memory. Lots of companies are getting a lot of attention for using the computer to help with memory, like Serego and companies I can't remember the name of the other one. Betsy, help me out here. But yes, we are looking at learning theory, and that's where you're going to see a lot of the research being done.
Sure. MindWorks might be another company that
exactly.
is very deeply built on research. What about innovation in working with teachers? Is that sometimes even a safer area? I mean, we think about learning is happening in the classroom, but there's also a lot of other things that teachers have to do to interact as professionals, either with their administration or with parents and so forth. Do you see enough innovation going on in this area, or is what we really need in this area some of your fast following? Let's just take some of the techniques we've seen work in other industries and really apply them in a more purposeful way in education.
I think you're seeing a lot of need to innovate on professional development. And as it goes back to the issue that the way we train teachers is not very innovative today. And there are more innovative schools of education. There are new ones out there, but it's an old school, and it's very hard to get universities to change. I was on a faculty meeting call today, and one of the issues was how many courses teachers taught, and people being very protective of their courses. And they tried to bring in a new young professor to teach one, and the older professor, even though he wasn't teaching it and needed help, he didn't want somebody new teaching it. So I think professional development is a good place to look at for some change. I think you're going to see more of that going online. I think you're going to see more just location-based, kind of what Relay's doing. So I think that is a great place for beginning to look at innovation.
Terrific. Again, let me kind of reiterate what Lucy said earlier, which is that if you're participating in this chat, we welcome you, and please raise your hand if you'd like to actually get in. I'm seeing a hand raised from Chris Berkner. Sorry, Chris, do you want to grab a microphone and join the conversation here? Can you do that? Okay, Chris has typed in a question here and said he's intrigued by your question. I'm not sure if the mic is working, so I'm going to read the question. Chris's question says, I'm intrigued by the discussion of random learning. Do you know of any technology startups focusing on this angle? Do you see any innovative approaches being developed to integrate problem-based learning with the random knowledge concept?
Yeah, good answer. There's a group of professors at the University of Virginia that have done some research on this whole idea of random knowledge space and linear knowledge space. I think you will find out that that there are innovative approaches in the terms of what I call the ability to do just-in-time learning. So teachers will assign a problem, and they'll provide a playlist to students that can be played in any order. And so Guru is an example of that. Doing that, Learns it's another example of doing it, where you put together random pieces of information to be able to provide a path through the knowledge that people can take that path in different ways. There is always the issue of the people that are putting together the paths not truly understanding instructional design, and so you have a problem with making sure that the hierarchy of knowledge is correct and that that they're not missing gaps. I think we're going to see more people addressing that going forward, but we're beginning to see groups doing that. Guru being one of the best, and Learns it's another.
I'm sorry, what was the second one that you mentioned, Bobbi?
Learns it from Grockett.
Oh, Learn it, right? Okay, right. That's been an interesting product with a complicated name.
Yes, exactly.
I'll get the appropriate email web address for that in a second and put that up. But it's a good example. Maureen Devlin's asking, how do we make sure that innovation for school is based on the best interest of students? Because we'd hate to see the private industry play around with education just for the sake of money. This kind of raises this whole question about whether some of the innovative companies, or quote innovative companies, that we see going on are really kind of chasing a pot of money, or are they really operating in a mission-based way? Bobbi, talk a little bit about that tension between profits and mission.
I think that tension will always be there. And remember, our schools have been doing other profit partnerships long before we worried about innovation and entrepreneurship. Most schools outsource to for-profit companies their all of their kitchen stuff, all of their buses, often their technology in some school districts are outsourced. So working with for-profit companies is not an issue. I think when we step into the assessment and into the content and curriculum area, we have more of a problem, because that seems to need, or the schools feel like they need to provide. They're the experts and they don't want anybody else telling them what to do. So I think we need to address the fact that we need more incubators, as I said, in schools. We need earlier beta. We need an ability to iterate sooner on new ideas. And we need to be able to address this coming perfect storm, as I describe it, between all of these teachers that taught in Teach for America, great technology, that are not speaking the same language. So I think the for-profit, non-profit is probably the least of the problems once we realize that we're all trying to make a difference for kids, and that's kind of where we need to come out on the issue, but it's not an easy one.
Right. Are there any signs, I mean, teachers are increasingly being asked to participate in betas or prototypes and so forth. Do you have any kind of rules of thumb of things that people should either look for as an indication that, hey, this is something we should participate in, or be wary of? If you see this, gosh, run, don't walk. Any kind of rules of thumb on that?
Yeah, I think, Betsy, you referred to Frank Catalano's editorial. There's been, and also Siegel from Rethink Education did an interesting editorial.
And I broke down and wrote one myself too, I'll confess.
Oh, okay. So there's been several people kind of addressing this area. So I think that we're looking at an opportunity to change the model, and it goes back to the fact that we need to have a culture of innovation, and we need to be able to feel comfortable doing it.
Right. Very good. Other questions that people have? Chris, I can't tell if you have more things that you want to add in here, or if there's somebody else who wants to add in another question. Grab the microphone. All participants are most welcome.
Let me talk a little bit also about what I think is some of the attributes of entrepreneurs and innovation that are in conflict to what we do in schools, and need to kind of see how we can make them do that. One, both innovators and entrepreneurs and traditional schools want to see good ideas scale up. And we have a real problem kind of figuring out which way to do this. So schools often get a new product, they spend a lot of time testing it, and they have a 5-year, adoption cycle. So they buy something thinking it's innovative, and they think they're scaling up because now they've adopted it across the whole school district, and then they're stuck with it for 5 years. So we need to think about how we change adoption. And so, whereas an innovator wants to try something new and wants a lot of people to join and try it, and then they iterate quickly as they get feedback. When I was running Curricula, we were able to get that feedback all the time and make changes to our site very quickly. The same thing is true with the kind of things that are happening with online programs that allow teachers to correct things very quickly. So I think that's one of the areas where there's a difference between entrepreneurs and the school districts, and that we need to change some of the sort of governance of this. The other reason we want to do, innovators want to be able to combine lots of good ideas and throw out the bad ones and keep the good ones. And we have to therefore have evaluation systems that are not set in stone. I'm very concerned that we're building these 2 very large scale assessment systems, and we have this wonderful Common Core, and yet nobody's thought about how we're going to get from the Common Core to the assessment. Nobody's been looking at the curriculum before they build these assessments. We need to change the process of assessing learning. And again, that's in conflict between entrepreneurs and traditional education.
Well, one of the questions that's been raised is a great one, which is if teachers want to really not just innovate within the context of the classroom, but maybe become an entrepreneur, what are some of the paths that you see toward for teachers to take those? And it's something that we see a lot at EdSurge as well, and I think that there are sort of a growing number of ways to do that. But Bobbi, share some of the ways that you've seen teachers move from the classroom into entrepreneurial spaces.
Well, I think that's one of the problems that I worry about the most. Most of the teachers that are entrepreneurs and want to innovate are very young, and that's good because we want edgy people that can afford to sleep on their couches and have very little money to live on. But on the other hand, in doing that, they haven't really spent a lot of time in the classroom. So what they bring out of the classroom isn't based on a lot of knowledge. So I think we need to come up with ways for teachers to be in the classroom and become entrepreneurs. So we need to, as I said, put incubators in the schools. We need to be able to give teachers release time. In Fairfax County, they ran a startup weekend, and the teachers that's presented, the superintendent agreed that they would have a day a week that he would fund for them to create their idea. So I think there are ways to make sure we get them, the best teachers, to stay in the classroom and still be entrepreneurs. The second thing I think we need to do is that they need to be aware, they need to do their homework more. So they need to become part of communities, they need to read EdSurge, they need to read EdNet, they need to read what EdWeek's doing, and they need to come up with ways to share that information. What I'm creating at Penn on a new database so teachers can come there and find the ideas and find groups and find a technology idea that they want to work on and then do that. So there's a lot of ways to keep the best educators in the classroom and let them become entrepreneurs. Universities have done a great job with this through their technology transfer offices, where professors invent something and they still want to be professors, but they spin out their companies. They find a great entrepreneur to run it. They take equity or stock in it, or they serve on the advisory board or the board, and that's what they. That's a way for them to stay and keep their foot in both camps.
Alethea, you're making an interesting point here about being an educator turned entrepreneur. Do you want to grab the mic and comment at all? If not, let me turn it over to Richard Close, who's got his hand up. Richard, can you grab the mic there?
I think Alethea just, oh, well, now we have two.
There we go, I got it.
Okay.
Hi, Bobbi. It's
Hi,
been a while.
how are you? Yeah, how are you?
My question is, as I listen to all of this, we're perseverating on methods, content, and curriculum. But one major issues is the emotional trauma that's in the classroom. And if I'm in front of a classroom that has 50% of the kids divorced, a whole bunch with STDs, another one's with alcoholics, how do all these methods, in many ways, are very, very disconnected from some of those issues? And in New York City, the research that's coming out next week is pointing out that STEM does not necessarily work for the curriculum. STEM works because of the project-based learning and the mentoring that takes place with Black minority students. So could you talk about the disconnect and the perseveration on content and methods, and less on the emotional side?
I think that's a good question. I'm not sure there's a disconnect. I actually think that as we create communities and we do move into the social networking, we're actually improving the ability to reach out to these kids that are on the fringes and are not getting the attention they need. So as we are able to do more personalized learning, as we're able to do better data mining, as we're able to do more things that are personally engaging for each student, I think we're going to see that a lot of the socialization and a lot of the discipline and a lot of the emotional issues will be supported by the change in the classroom. I was talking to a professor at Penn that does research on schools in the inner city where you've got a lot of these problems, and one of the things she's done research on is giving these students more responsibility in terms of what they learn, when they learn it, and how they evaluate it. And she's found that when you say to these students, it's up to you, you decide how you're going to show me you've learned this, you come and learn it when you want, you learn it how you want, and the attendance has gone up, the students feel better about themselves, and they're doing better in school. I also saw somebody that was on from Mumbai. Whoever it was, if they're still on, thank you for joining, but can you tell us what you're doing in Mumbai?
And you still have Alethea waiting to take the microphone.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to the screen where everybody put where they were located, and hopefully we'll see who else came on. I know you all already put some.
That disappears.
Oh, that disappears? Okay.
It does. Did you want Alethea? We've given Alethea the mic. Do you want her to ask her question?
Sure, go right ahead.
Hi, Bobbi. It was more of a response to a question. I know Maureen was asking about some strategies for educators who might want to enter the entrepreneurial space or, be innovative outside the classroom as well. And just personal experience, one of the things that has been most helpful for me has been just having access to a world of educators, a world of entrepreneurs in the education space who have been able to give me great feedback on what we're doing, how we're doing it. And luckily we have a team that's been able to help us change things constantly and add things based on folks' feedback. But you know, just knowing that there is a community of folks out there willing to listen, there's a community of folks out there willing to give you great advice. That's one of the steps that helped me personally kind of transition from the classroom to the business arena, if you will. Although I will confess, Bobbi, I am one of those younger educators turned entrepreneurs. So hopefully support that I'm getting from the community will actually help us offer something valuable.
Well, I think it's great. I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't. I mean that it just changes the community and it changes the ecosystem of who's creating great things for schools and who has to use it. We have to be very conscious of the fact that you are trying to take something that's on the edge, new, innovative, and you're trying to put it into a school system that you, as a younger person that may or may not have been in the school system, you're asking these teachers to use it and buy it, and they are of a different culture and generation. So it is a mismatch, and it's something that we have to change.
Absolutely, totally agree, Bobbi.
Tell us what your company does. What does Presence do?
We focus on, our focus is actually not necessarily in the classroom. It is on helping parents and the members of the community be more engaged through mobile. So our solution, our company, is basically helping schools go mobile through their own customized mobile app or mobile website or text messaging, anything to do with communications and mobile, since we are such a mobile society. So we're a little bit more focused on the community support that's necessary to help the teachers be successful in the classroom.
Great, and well, thanks for those comments. I think that we need you out there, and we need the school side to be more open to looking at new ideas that you're bringing to the table, as well as the teachers. I do see that the Mumbai person has answered that there's a conference in GAF Summit, and Rushton, thanks for sharing that. How are you, Rushton? So I think somebody else wanted the microphone.
Chris Berkner, if you're there, I think we have given you the mic.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Hi, Bobbi. This is wonderful information. Thank you so much. I'm curious if you could comment on anything you know about folks who are trying to leverage the open educational resources that are already out there and kind of create some kind of more universal platform that can be scaled up.
I call that the golden crown to do that. I think everybody wants to create that. There are companies that are looking at doing integration. They've been companies for the last 25 years, as long as there's been technology in the classroom. I don't think we're going to find one platform. That's because we all want to be innovators and we think we all have the best platform. But I do think what we're going to see is more ability to be able to connect data and connect programs from one platform with the other. There are several companies looking at that. I also think you're going to see the ability to have more data mining shared, which will be able to make better decisions about which one to use. If anybody's figured out how to get everybody to use the same platform, then you probably should be out there raising lots of money.
Well, that was one of my follow-up question would be, I mean, in that kind of endeavor, doesn't it sort of automatically lend itself more towards a nonprofit kind of protocol type effort like a Wikipedia? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the answer is no. You would think the nonprofits would do a better job, but even the Gates Foundation has put a lot of money into data mining and databases. They actually are funding each other, multiple companies, and then they're telling them to go fight it out in the mud pit. They won't even share between their knowledge of what the other ones are doing. So it's being perpetuated by the funders too.
Bobbi, we're starting to come up against the hour, and this might be a really great time to just kind of touch on a couple of summary points. Rushton saying, what's most exciting to you about the coming year. So I guess if you could, in closing, kind of summarize a little bit about what you're looking forward to in 2013, and both technology trends, but also really learning trends. And then finally, if you have any last pieces of advice for people who perhaps are educators and are really interested in what happens on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, good. In terms of, I'm most excited about the fact that we have finally opened up the conversation between entrepreneurs and the people in the classroom. I think that while it's not been an easy and it will continue to be rocky, I'm seeing more and more evidence that it's getting attention and being accepted, and I see school districts supporting it. I see colleges of education supporting it. For example, Johns Hopkins just started a PhD program in education entrepreneurship, and so I'm very excited to see that. I'm also very excited to see the wealth of people interested in supporting education from the for-profit and the nonprofit. And what I also am hoping to see more of, and I think we're beginning to see, is more communication between the people on the sort of social impact and the nonprofit side, talking to the people on the more traditional for-profit venture side. So I'm very excited to see that. I'm excited about our business plan competition at Penn. We have $120,000 that we give away for prizes. We're the only business plan that does. And in addition, we are very excited to have any of you that are interested in judging. We'll open that up on our site very soon. And also our first round of applications are due January 6th. It's just a one-page form. So if you have any great ideas and you're interested in having some time to do it, if you get accepted, we give you until March or April to write up the plan.
Terrific. Well, on behalf of the community here, it sounds like this has been a really well-received talk, a lot of really great things going on. So everybody, please say thank you with me to Bobbi for sharing her thoughts, and thank you very much. And please do stop in. Sharon, it looks like you're raising your hand real quickly. Is there one last thing? You want to have a final word here? Let me see if I can get you the mic. Let's see. Okay, I think you have the mic. Sharon, did you have something you wanted to add at the end there? Going once, going twice. Okay.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed this, and I'm so excited to see your comments. So I will be waiting to hear from all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.